Kirby, the lovable pink puffball of air, made his first appearance on the Nintendo Game Boy back in 1992. Since his monochrome debut, he's gone on to become one of Nintendo's most popular and cutest franchises. From comics to cartoons and merch, Kirby's cuteness has infected just about every medium. But how did Kirby come to be, and who is behind the design of the character and game? What's up guys, I'm Dave Klein, and today, we'll be talking about who made Kirby. Founded in 1980 by a friend of Satoru Iwata, the company HAL Laboratory was formed in order to make games for the PC. According to Satoru Iwata, the company was named HAL specifically because it was the 3 letters before IBM. Satoru Iwata would work at the company part-time as he was still in college, until moving to HAL full-time in 1982 upon graduation. It was right after the Invader boom, so it was decided that HAL would try and develop games. But at the time, personal computers were still not very powerful, so my friends and I created a hardware peripheral known as the PCG. For old computer fans, this is something of a famous peripheral. It basically allowed computers with no graphics display abilities to display graphics. With that, we got to work creating games. Straight rip-offs of Namco's Rally X, Galaxian, and other early Namco games. We never asked permission, it was still an early era when copyrights and such were not very clear. Satoru Iwata and HAL Laboratories heard about the Nintendo Famicom being developed, and Iwata traveled to Nintendo's office asking to develop software for them. They agreed, and soon, HAL was creating games such as Golf and Adventure of Lolo for the Famicom. However, despite this, in 1992, HAL almost went bankrupt, and Nintendo had to step in to save the company. It went like this. We didn't have enough time, so we released games before they were really finished and ready for release. Then those games wouldn't sell very well because they weren't very good, which put us in an even more desperate position for our next development. At this point, Satoru Iwata was made president of HAL Laboratories, and while it's unclear, this may actually have been a condition of Nintendo's for them to bring HAL out of bankruptcy. Nintendo would also be left to marketing and sales, while HAL would focus on creating good games. And while I can't find any first-hand sources or direct sources on this, supposedly, Satoru Iwata had some involvement on Kirby's Dream Land, either by setting up the project to make an easier game for beginners, by greenlighting the project itself, or by overseeing the development. Although Satoru Iwata does state, I had a large part in the Kirby development, although I couldn't specify what specifically for Kirby's Dream Land. Around this point, Masahiro Sakurai joined HAL Laboratory. Just after I joined Nintendo, they were accepting game design plans for a game that anyone could enjoy. That got me thinking, I want to make a cute main character who everyone will love. The game I ended up making then was the Kirby's Dream Land for Game Boy. It's likely this project for a game that anyone could enjoy was indeed set up by Satoru Iwata, and he greenlit the concept. For the Kirby series, I wrote the original concept as a one-button game. Essentially, the player would use one button to play the game. For beginners, I believe that games are extremely complex. Even with one controller, there are so many buttons. When the game says you have to handle all those inputs, beginners may feel overwhelmed. So, because of that, I often thought for the first game, wouldn't it be great to make a game that only uses one button? Unfortunately, the game industry does not have the leeway or the capability to permit the sale of such a game. So with some resistance, I decided to add one-button games as extras to Kirby's Adventure. With the concept changed to be a little more involved, Masahiro Sakurai then got to work on a game to be titled Twinkle Popo, with the main character being named Popopo. According to an article translated by Source Gaming, development began using a twin Famicom dev kit and a development tool dubbed Game Maker, which is like using a lunchbox to make lunch. And crazy enough, these dev tools didn't have keyboard support, which meant they had to adjust all of the values using an on-screen keyboard. Kirby's look came about as the character of Popopo was being made. While Masahiro Sakurai was in the midst of making Kirby's Dream Land, they needed a dummy character to represent what the real character would be doing in the game. I just put a Kirby-shaped blob in my presentation as a placeholder, but everyone liked it so much we decided to keep it in the game without any major changes. When someone really loves a character, they like to sketch them in their notebooks, right? That's why we gave Kirby a simple circular design, so anyone could draw him. Only Sakurai can draw the real Kirby, and we call him Sakurai Kirby. In an interview during production of Kirby's Adventure, translated by Schmupplations, Kirby was given the ability to inhale everything because according to Sakurai, I was wondering if I could make a game with simple controls where you use the enemies to attack. I was thinking of using an enemy the way you'd use a soccer ball, heading the enemy, kicking the enemy, and for flying, Satoru Iwata chimes in, stating, we came up with a lot of ideas, and the one that stuck was flying. How would Kirby fly? By puffing up like a balloon. How would he do that? By inhaling the air. Wouldn't it be fun then if he could inhale enemies at the same time? That was the basic thought process. Sakurai then set about his overall design plan of making a more simple game. I thought it was important to look at users who can't clear hurdles in games like Zelda or Mario, or won't even try to, and so I made the obstacles in Kirby the way they are, easy to solve, but you can still move to the right or the left. Keeping these sorts of things in mind and considering them important is what I call Kirbyisms. In an interview on Kirby's Adventure, Takashi Saito is credited with making Kirby's Dream Land look beautiful, stating, "Our concept from the beginning was to make stage backgrounds that would be pretty enough just to look at on their own." Although, oddly, I couldn't find his name in the credits of Kirby's Dream Land, although he is credited in Kirby's Adventure. With gorgeous visuals and an original simplistic concept, the next step was sound, and Jun Ishikawa was tasked with creating the music on Kirby's Dream Land, and eventually would create music alongside Hirokazu Ando. Finally, after the game was finished, HAL approached Nintendo about the name Twinkle Popo to get their thoughts, and according to Takao Shimizu, a producer on Kirby's Adventure, "We wanted American kids to enjoy this game too, you see. We asked Nintendo of America for their suggestions. Kirby was one of many they sent us, and it caught my eye when I first saw it. I remember Gasper was another one. There were lots." Shigeru Miyamoto, who would end up being a producer on Kirby's Adventure, follows up stating, "We wanted a name that would sound like an American Idol, but Kirby was actually the name of an important lawyer at Nintendo of America." This attorney was none other than John Kirby, who helped defend Nintendo when they were being sued by MCA Universal, who had claimed Donkey Kong infringed on the rights of King Kong. John Kirby helped Nintendo win the case, and in effect, saved Nintendo of America countless millions of dollars. The character's name was switched from Popopo to Kirby, and Kirby's Dream Land finally released in 1992, which became HAL Laboratory's biggest success at the time. And with that, HAL Laboratory got to work on a Famicom successor to Kirby's Dream Land, and what would be their most ambitious project to date. This game, to be titled Kirby's Adventure, would introduce even more staples to the Kirby franchise, and in particular, Kirby's ability to copy enemies' abilities. Masahiro Sakurai states that this ability came about in order to help advanced gamers enjoy the game. Kirby was originally designed to be a somewhat easy game, something that a young child could enjoy playing. However, after the Game Boy Kirby's Dream Land was released, there was a lot of feedback from players saying it was too easy and too short. For the sequel, I was thinking, how can I retain the easy parts but make it so skilled players could have fun too? That was when the idea of copying enemy abilities came to me. Normally you just lower the difficulty and do nothing else. That's the most common result, common solution. For example, there's Kirby's copy ability. The reason why I implemented that is so that experienced players and new players alike could choose their own abilities and enjoy it in their own way. Another major difference the Famicom, or Nintendo Entertainment System, brought to Kirby was color. As the Game Boy was monochrome, Kirby had initially been white. However, what color Kirby actually was differed per person. Shigeru Miyamoto envisioned him as being yellow. However, Masahiro Sakurai always thought he should be pink, which is what they ended up going with. I remember the first time I saw the color illustration. Yeah, pink, that looks good, I thought to myself. Normally a character like Kirby would have been yellow. Think Pac-Man or Nubo. That's why when I saw Kirby with a different color, it felt really fresh. Although, oddly, the creators talk about this coming about during the creation of Kirby's Adventure, while all of the Japanese box art and commercials I can find on the Japanese version of Kirby's Dream Land, or Kirby of the Stars as it's known in Japan, show Kirby as being pink. Once it came time to create a full-color promotional illustration for Kirby's Adventure, the staff were all talking about it. What? You mean Kirby isn't white? Or, I thought he was yellow! Kirby's Adventure, now featuring all of Kirby's iconic traits, including his copying ability, released in 1993, launching Kirby further into Nintendo stardom. Kirby came about due to the efforts of HAL Laboratory as a whole, with Satoru Iwata stating, "Our first Kirby game taught us the value of teamwork. Since not everybody can be a Miyamoto, we discovered that ideas can come from several team members, building on each other to make something superior to what one person could invent." That said, it seems the initial concept and most of what made Kirby the icon he was came from Masahiro Sakurai. Sakurai, who would go on to create yet another massive Nintendo franchise. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this Who Made on Kirby. Kirby's Dream Land was a game that I had to carry around with me everywhere I went when I was a kid, so it was an absolute blast covering it. And if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to check out Shmuplations or Source Gaming, as a lot of the interviews were translated by those two websites, so I highly recommend them. And if you did enjoy this video, let me know what other games you'd like to see get covered. And I'll see you guys next time. Later. Peace. Why do I look out of focus? Why do I look out of focus? Probably wasn't focused. Well, I guess I'll find out.